Welcome to the Law Abiding Biker Podcast, and it's the best podcast because it's my daddy's podcast.
Oh yeah, everybody. Thanks for checking back in another Law Abiding Biker Podcast. This is the Biker Podcast for the motorcycling majority, the big MM. That's right, the 99%ers, baby. It is your one-stop shop for all your law-abiding biker needs. So look no further. Let's do this thing. Welcome, everybody. This is Ryan Erlacher, your host of the Law Abiding Biker Podcast. That's right, your high-tech redneck. I appreciate you guys checking back in. Got a really awesome episode for you. I'm pretty excited about this one. I'm actually excited about most of the episodes, but just glad we're getting them out to you guys, and hope you're enjoying them. Anyways, real quick off the top here, I want to say thank you for a couple donations. David Burns of Cedar Hills, Texas. Thank you very much for your donation. And Brian Rogers of Naples, Florida. Couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you for donating. Thanks to everybody that's donated. All right. So, I want to tell you a little bit about today. I was out on a ride, and let me look here. But so, not a member of the club, of course, because it's a Yamaha. But like we told you in the past, here at Law Abiding Biker Media, we ride. We have our specific bylaws for the club, but that doesn't mean we don't ride with other riders. And a friend of ours who rides with us from time to time got himself a brand new 2013 Yamaha FJR 1300 sport touring bike is what it is. And I have to say that pretty cool looking bike, and it's not what I ride. I prefer the laid back Harley, but if you know what the sport touring is, it sits up a little bit more, and it's a sharp looking bike. If you're into the sport touring, it's awesome, and he seems to like it. Tested it out today, and that's what's really cool. What I wanted to say about our club is it was awesome because it was like a last minute thing, and this guy, a friend of ours, called up and wanted to go for a ride. Next thing I know, Oscar, who you guys have all heard on the podcast, he grouped me and said, "Hey, tomorrow, ride." He wants to try out his new bike. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in. What time? Where?" And we went and did a couple-hour ride and grabbed some lunch real quick. But, that's what's really cool if you can find a good group of guys. And don't worry about, like we said in the past, numbers. Make sure the members you have that are very involved with the guys you ride with that you can call up on a whim. Of course, if somebody's working, and we had somebody else ride with us too from another law enforcement club, not with the Sworn FUMC, but another LE club, and he came along too and rode with us. So we do a mix, and me and Oscar rode together most of the time, and of course we rode with them too. So, and then to even top that off, just before, after the interview that I did, I just was like, I wonder if I want to go on a ride tomorrow. It's getting nice around here, 60 plus degrees in the day, and not that keeps us from riding cold weather, but it's always nicer to ride in warm weather. So I grouped me the guys, and just on a whim while I was eating dinner, and bam, got a couple guys riding. We're just going to go on a ride tomorrow. Not a couple hours, not an extremely long ride because guys got some other obligations, but that is what's really cool, and makes me enjoy the club I'm with so much, and the guys that we've selected is we can literally call each other up, and we don't sit and talk about it, we ride. And even if that means only a couple hours because there's so many other obligations, it doesn't matter. We pull together, and we, even for a couple hours, will interrupt the middle of our day. Okay, I got from this time to this time, but we'll make it happen because that's what we're all here for here at Lab Media. And of course, the Sworn Few is all about riding. So pretty awesome day. It was beautiful weather and had a blast. And then came back and did this awesome interview that you guys are going to get to listen to here in just a moment. And I want to say that it was based on a email, and that just shows you guys, if you send me emails, I try to I want to know what you guys want to hear about. And so a listener who sent me this email, his name is Quentin Lewis and I hope I don't mutilate this, but it's Leicester, Massachusetts. That's Leicester, Massachusetts. Again, Quentin Lewis, thanks for sending the email. Here's what Quentin wanted me to know. And he sent this some time ago, so just know that if you send the emails I've talked to you about in the past, I get a lot, but I do get to them. And I did get to this, and it took me a little bit to set up the interview, but I did get a hold of the gentleman and got the interview right here on the Lab podcast. You won't hear it anywhere else. So you probably don't, Quentin says you probably don't know me. He says, makes a joke about some dumb comments on Facebook, but that's not true, Quentin. We appreciate everybody that comments on Facebook and on our Facebook page, lawabidingbiker.com/Facebook. And he wanted to introduce me to Paul Pelland. Pelland, make sure I say that right, known as Long Haul Paul, because he was a iron butt rally guy in a prior life. And we're going to talk about that in the interview if you guys don't know what that is. Quentin says, I say prior life because that was before he was diagnosed with relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. That's RRMS. Quentin says he has made it his mission to ride for MS, and he is working on what he calls his 1,000,000 miles for a cure. He organized the MS 5000 and it's a ride, and we're going to talk about it in the interview. It's a 50-day for 50 days. It's kind of like the MS walkathon, but it's on a motorcycle. That's a real cookie cutter way to put it. But it's better than that because, of course, it's on a motorcycle. That's right. It used to have a distance to it, but now it really doesn't matter. Just within 50 days, you ride as much as you can. So it's a fun way, Quentin says, for riders to raise money for the cause and have a good excuse to ride. Amen to that, Quentin. Well said. You can learn more about it at his website, of course, longhaulpaul.com. And so I got a hold of Paul, and I got to interview him, and it was a really cool Skype interview I did. I learned all about where he came from, what his life, I guess, his change of his life, or road to life, I should say. His road recalculated, I think, is the good way to put it. And it's a man with MS, a motorcycle, and 1,000,000 miles. And he's got a website, like I said, I already gave you the URL, and he's doing some really great things. Instead of getting down about it, he's stepped up to the plate and really put himself out there and took it basically by the balls, MS by the balls, and he's doing the best he can with it, living with it. They've made a lot of, you'll learn in the interview, tons of progression in medications, and of course they're working on a cure. But this guy, I don't care if he has MS, he'll outride most people. The guy's amazing with a truly amazing story. So let's get right into the interview, guys. Let me make sure I'm saying it right, Paul. Is it Pelland or Pelland or?
First one, Pelland. Yep.
Pelland. Okay. I'll try to remember that as we go along. Anyways, we spoke a little bit before we started here, and just want to tell you again, really appreciate you being on the Law Abiding Biker podcast. And in fact, one of our listeners emailed me about you. That's how I found out about you. So we talk a little bit about that in the intro. So where are you living at there, Paul?
Well, I'm up here where it's nice and cold. It's I live in New Hampshire, southern New Hampshire. It's been a rough winter for riding, that's for sure. But
yeah.
I do try to take the bike every day possible. And some days, like this morning, it was about 11 degrees when I left the house for work. But it warmed up to about 28 for the ride home. So.
Okay, well, I like that talk. We you definitely have it colder than us, or I think you guys have it longer. We're over here in the eastern part of Washington State, and I'll tell you what, we don't have extremely long winters, but we do, and it gets down to 0 sometimes, and so I know all about that riding in very freezing weather. So it's finally warming up here a little bit. It was like 65 here today, so we had a beautiful ride today, but looking forward to summer. What is it? You guys still have some snow around there? Or?
Yeah, we've got, especially where the area of where I live, we don't seem to get as much sun. 2 miles from my house, you can see some grass, but I've still got about 2.5 feet of snow in my yard. So,
wow. Okay. Well, I'm not going to complain then. All right. How long you lived over there in New Hampshire?
I've been up here about 15 years. I grew up in Massachusetts and just kind of migrated north a little bit. And of course, the states over here in New England are all kind of stuck together really close. So it's really not much of a move. But I've been up here about 15 years, and I'm married, and I live with my wife, and we have 3 grown kids, and we have 1 granddaughter.
Very cool. I was reading a little bit, learning a little bit about you before I interviewed you here. And now you have a background in engineering, electronics, and mechanics. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I went to school for automotive engineering, actually, and I've been working on cars and motorcycles and all kinds of electronics and things most of my life. But I actually I worked for 20 years. I was self-employed. I actually owned a shoe repair shop, which most people find that interesting. A young guy in the shoe repair business, but it did me well for a good 20 years.
Well, cool. Now, you've got an interesting story, but I got to ask because I know I'm just going to ask because you've been riding motorcycles a long time. Do you remember your first motorcycle when you were a kid? I suppose it was.
Actually, my first motorcycle, I think when I was 20 years old when I bought my first motorcycle.
Okay.
It was a Honda CB 554, and I paid more for the helmet than the bike, but it had been in somebody's garage or cellar or something for 20 plus years, and I think I paid $50 for it. And I got it running, and I learned how to ride by jumping on it and driving down the street. Not the very best way to learn to ride, but that was actually my first motorcycle.
Very cool. Now, I was not influenced by my parents. In fact, they were not motorcycle people at all and didn't like motorcycles. So it's funny that I've been riding for a long time. But what were your parents the reason that you got involved, or did you get into it on your own?
No, I got into it on my own. In high school and stuff, I was really into cars, and I was a little crazy in the car. So probably a good idea that I didn't start riding until I was a tad older. And for those first couple of years of riding, it was pretty much, Sundays when the weather was really nice kind of thing. 4,000 or 5,000 miles a year was probably the most I did first 5 or 6 years of riding. Fair weather rider, we call that up here anyway.
Yep. We have a lot of those around here too.
And that was the start of it. And then, unfortunately, my first marriage started to go south, and I found that getting home and jumping on the bike and riding until you go through a tank of gas and you get home and everybody's asleep, that kind of became the norm for me. And I just started riding longer and longer distances and putting more miles on the bike, and just trying to get rid of my all my problems.
Well, that's motorcycles are good for that, to clear the mind. Speaking of riding long distances, you apparently a long distance rally competitor. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The Iron Butt Association is the association of people that do endurance riding, long distance rallies, and again, I found out about it after reading I think Ron Ayer's book Against the Wind, and talks about entering the Iron Butt Rally, which is the mother of all endurance competitions. It's basically 11 days, and the average rider will do 11,000 miles in the 11 days, and basically it's a scavenger hunt on steroids.
Wow.
Crisscrosses the United States, and you're hunting bonuses, in all parts of the country. And in those days, you were even in Mexico and Canada, Alaska, Prudhoe Bay. There could be bonuses, Pikes Peak and down to Key West and all kinds of things. So the rally's held every 2 years, and I was, like I said, I was going through a really bad marriage, and I was just getting through my divorce, and so I really wanted to ride in the 2001 Iron Butt Rally, and they only let in about 100 riders from across the country. Actually, some riders from Europe too, but out of 100 riders, there's probably 3,000 or 4,000 people that apply. So, obviously not too many people get in, but I really felt that I needed to ride this endurance competition to help me through a rough patch in my life. And unfortunately, I did not get picked for the drawing. So I knew that they had usually leave some spots open for either oddball bikes or antiques, or sometimes some spots for people that are involved with the press, things like that. So I wrote a letter to Mike Kneebone, who's the president of the Iron Butt Association, and I told him that I'd be willing to ride the biggest piece of crap motorcycle built today if he let me in the rally.
Oh, geez.
And so I offered to ride on a Russian Ural, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Ural, but
I am, and I looked it up, and oh my God, it's like a Russian bike with a sidecar, right?
Yeah, it's basically the Ural is a copy of a 1940s era BMW twin opposed cylinder engine, and the rumor has it is that during World War II, the Russians confiscated all the tooling to make the BMW motorcycle and took it up to the Ural Mountains and started making their own copy. And, it definitely is the copy. It's nothing like the original. But in fact, in 2001, when I did this rally, the machinery that used to build the parts for the bike was still steam driven. So the factory was steam driven.
Wow.
Building these antiquated motorcycles that were capable of speeds of 50, 55 miles an hour, top speeds. Made for tooling around the countryside in Russia, and motorcycles that you could fix with baling wire and duct tape on the side of the road.
Right.
But they were known to break down. So I had actually never even seen a Ural when I made the offer. And of course, Mike Kneebone sent me back I believe it was an email back then. It may have been a letter, but it said, "We think you're an idiot, but you're in the rally."
Oh yeah, how could they let that go? Yeah.
Yeah. So I went about finding the bike and getting it all set up. I mean, I had the heads polished and ported. I had a bigger oil sump made for it, and all kinds of doodads done to it so that it would, I could maybe do 75, 80 miles an hour on it, and hopefully it wouldn't fall apart. Unfortunately, the first bike I built, I took it out for a test run, and I ended up seizing the motor in a smaller rally, 36-hour rally. I seized the motor, and I then convinced Ural Motors to sponsor me. Now, they said they would sponsor me on one condition, and that was that I couldn't tell anybody I had factory sponsorship, because there was nobody there in the office that believed my bike, the Ural, would actually finish the Iron Butt Rally. But amazingly enough, I did finish. I started the 11-day event, and on day one, I took off, and I went all of 250 miles before I blew up the first engine. And through a series of events over the next 11 days, I went through 3 engines. I broke down I have no idea, 25, 35 times. I crashed in the freeway in Arkansas. The steering head bearing fell apart, and I went into a tank slapper and slid down the highway in Arkansas.
Oh boy!
And let's see, the engine. I broke a push rod somewhere in out west somewhere, and Wyoming or something. And I ended up making new push rods in a hardware store to get going. And but I, at the end of 11 days, I actually made it to the last checkpoint, and I think quite a few people were amazed.
Well, I'm amazed. I'll tell you that, especially with adding the story to it. There, those bikes are not really apparently made for that, as you demonstrated.
Yeah, it was something. But it was amazing because every time that something happened. You can't have like a crew following you or anything like that. So you really have to fix what the problem is on the road or find a way to solve the issue. And every time that I did break down or crash, there was always somebody there to pick me up and help me up. And even when I thought I was done out of the rally, somebody would come along and say, well, why don't you, see if you can get it running? And, there was always somebody there to help me. And, it was pretty amazing. And I use that story of riding the Ural and the Iron Butt when I do presentations now to motorcycle clubs and different rallies and things. And I explain how having multiple sclerosis is a lot like riding, the world's toughest motorcycle competition on the biggest piece of crap.
Yeah, that's well put. Well put, man. All right. Well, now you've ridden, how many miles do you think you've ridden at this point in your life?
I tried to figure it out once, and I'm probably low, but somewhere between 350 and 400,000 would be my guess.
And you're pushing for 1 million here, right? We're going to get into that a little bit, but is that what you're pushing for?
Yeah, well, what I'm doing is I'm actually going to document a full 1 million miles. So I actually started from zero a year and a half ago and got all the proper witnesses, and I'm keeping all the proper records to actually prove, hopefully to prove that I've ridden 1 million miles, all in the name of MS.
Well, that's awesome. And I had a question. Now, as far as the rally competition stuff, were you still working a job? I mean, I guess I don't know a lot about the rally side of motorcycling. Is that something that you can do for a living? You have sponsors. Can you explain some of that?
Sure. Actually, the whole idea of the Iron Butt Association and all the rallies, it's all for a plastic trophy. There's no cash purse. There's no big prizes. Any sponsorship that you can get is basically for gear and motorcycle. There's no money in it whatsoever. So it's a pretty expensive hobby.
Yeah, I'd say.
Consider some of these high tech bikes with all the electronics and everything else that people are using to do these rallies. You can spend, not to mention what happens to the bike after beating the hell out of it for 12, 15,000 miles in 11 days. But you can spend 10 or 15 grand to do one of these big events. And it's all for just, plastic trophy and bragging rights. So it truly is it's a club, but there is no purse, or there is no prize money. So.
Okay, well,
yep.
that clears that. Because I know a lot of guys are interested and wondered about that. You still do that ride?
I don't. The Iron Butt Rally is the kind of the granddaddy of endurance riding, and it's held every other year. And I did do the 2001. That was my first rally on the Ural, and then 2 years later, I did get picked for the drawing. And I rode in 2003. I rode on a BMW. That rally in 2003, and there's a lot of smaller rallies throughout the year. So you can do a 1-day, 1,000-mile rally. They're held all around the country, and it's really just camaraderie of riders, and it's kind of different than what some people are used to, like a poker run or something like that. This is, once the starting clock goes off, people actually go in all different directions. Nobody really goes in the same direction because you're given these options. You're given a package of maybe 50 different places you can visit during a 24-hour period, and each place is worth different amount of points, and you have to plan it out, in the computer or maps, try to figure out which places you want to go to and grab which points. And in the end, it's not the person who gets there first that wins. It's whoever's planned the best route and gets the most amount of points. So it's not about speed. It's not a race. It's really about thinking, planning your fuel stops, and planning your mileage and that type of thing is really strategy more than anything else. And so I did a lot of these rallies in between. And in 2003, I actually finished in the top 10 of the 2003 Ironbutt Rally. I came in 9th place, which
That's
is
awesome.
it was pretty amazing. But that rally actually was my very last competition. And the reason was that partway through the rally, actually two separate things happened. My attorney called me as I was riding through Louisiana, and he notified me that the court had awarded me custody of my 2 kids.
Oh, wow.
So that was the first thing that happened. And then actually the next day, I arrived in, I think it was Lake City, Florida. I was actually in first place at that point, at that checkpoint. And unfortunately, it was when I experienced my first major MS attack. I didn't know
it
it.
2003?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I didn't know it at the time, but I arrived at the checkpoint, and I must have looked like hell because the rally staff told me to skip the riders meeting, go right to my room, and they'd see me in the morning. And when I woke up, my hands were numb, tingling and numb. I actually lost probably 12 or 15 hours of the day before. My memory, I couldn't remember, I couldn't remember where my bike was. I couldn't find my bike. I couldn't plan a route. I was really confused and disorientated. My body was, really reacting weird. And, I chalked it up to the stress of the event, the stress of the custody, the heat of Florida, all the different things that, I had just run the longest leg of any rally I'd ever entered. And, all these things I thought was what was causing my issues. But, it was a year and a half later before I was diagnosed, but it was actually my first MS attack was during that rally. So after the rally, I basically retired from competing in long distance events.
Wow, that's kind of, scary deal, I guess. But yeah, chalking it up to all the other stuff, I can see how you would do that. But it must have been on the back of your mind a little bit, like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I even stopped when I eventually found my bike. It was actually had been brought to the dealership across the street to have tires put on, which I had arranged and everything, but I just didn't remember getting it done. I got the bike and I take off for, I think I was heading to Key West from there. And I stopped on the side of the highway, which is something I hardly ever do because to me that's pretty dangerous. I stopped because I felt like my tires were on backwards.
Wow.
Like they had mounted them wrong, or, I everything from the bike to the handlebars to my seat, all the way up my arms to my neck, everything felt wrong. Like something was really wrong with the bike, but it was just, my body was, I was going through my first attack, and I just didn't know what was going on.
So we are, I guess 2003, we talked about that a little bit, and you're having some symptoms, and then you said a year and a half later, so I guess 2005 is close to when you actually figured out what was going on. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had, I finished the rally. I actually sold the motorcycle, the rally bike I had. I bought a convertible, and, I was busy raising my kids, running my business. And I actually got engaged, met a wonderful woman. We got engaged. And I still had a lot of issues with my hands. I had lost most of the dexterity in my hands. I started having a lot of memory problems, a lot of multitasking problems. I'd order a pizza, and then the guy says, "All right, what's the address?" And I would just have a blank. I couldn't remember my own address, and I'd lived there for 5 or 6 years, and I'd be looking around for a piece of mail to see what my address is. And again, single parent, all these issues going on that I kind of just was thinking it was just distraction and that kind of thing. But I was in a store, and I went to introduce somebody I knew from Cub Scouts, a mom I knew from Cub Scouts, and I had to introduce her to my fiance. And when I looked over to my fiance and said, I actually drew a blank on the name of my future wife. And I'm trying to introduce my fiance, and I can't remember my fiance's name.
Wow.
That's when I finally went to the doctors. I said, there's something definitely wrong with me.
Yeah. You broke down and admitted at that point, huh? Wow.
Yeah. I think it was so embarrassed. I think I would have rather wet my pants there in that moment than just trying to introduce my new wife, and I don't know her name. Yeah, that was the final straw. That sent me to the doctors, and they thought I might have like carpal tunnel syndrome, and he thought that being the stress of being a single dad and all this stuff was probably causing the memory issues and things. But we did some tests. I went to a neurologist, and the neurologist actually told me, he says, "I know what's wrong with you." He says, "You got for brains." But we're gonna run some tests just to make sure there's nothing major wrong. And unfortunately, the test showed that I did indeed have lesions in my brain, and that were typical of multiple sclerosis. And within a month or so, they did a couple other tests and basically said, "Yeah, unfortunately, you have MS." So,
wow, and that. Wow, quite a diagnosis there. But were you kind of down and out a bit with that for a while, or did you right away, say, "I'm going to do something great with this"? Because you really have.
Well, my first reaction when the doctor called me, he asked me to come into his office for the results of the final test. The spinal tap is the final test, and I said, "Look, I'm busy. I'm at work. I really don't want to come in." I says, "I've already, researched what I believe is the problem, and I think I know what you're going to tell me. Just spit it out." And he says, "No, I really want to come into the office." And I said, "Look, just tell me, And he says, "Well, I'm very sorry to tell you this, Mr. Pelland, but you do indeed have MS." And without glancing or without waiting a second, I just hammered back, "Well, how bad can it be? They named a state after it." That was my reaction. But
wow.
I think by this time in my life, I had been through quite a bit with the divorce, the custody battle, a 3-year custody ordeal, doing the Iron Butt rally, things that a lot of people hadn't been want to do and haven't been able to do. I felt like I'd done a lot in my life, and I'd been through a lot of bad stuff also. But I think it was kind of a relief knowing what was wrong with me, that I didn't have, Alzheimer's or something else. That I think it was kind of a relief. And, at this point, 10 years ago, there were medications to help treat the symptoms, which, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, there wasn't. So, there was hope, and there was, some of these medications showed really good slowing the progression of the disease and stuff like that. So I think it wasn't a death sentence. I mean, people don't die from MS. It's right. It's progressive. It's autoimmune, and but everybody's different. So some people will have different issues, and the course of the disease is quite different for everybody. So, there was a lot. I did read a lot of good information. There's a lot of good events to go out and to hear speakers talk about MS and physicians and things. So there's a lot of information out there, good information, and it's not a death sentence, and it's just you just don't know what it's going to strike next. It's that's the problem, is it can affect any part of your body, anything that's connected to your nerves. It can affect. So it's the not knowing part that is a little scary. But I've been lucky, and for going on 9 years, I've only had a couple of minor relapses, and I've pretty much what am I trying to say?
That's all right.
Yeah,
it's all right. Don't worry about it. Well, let's get into now. As far as MS goes, I was doing a little bit of reading on it, trying to educate myself a little bit, and like 400,000 people in the U.S. have MS. Is that still do you think, a fair estimate?
It's the number they use. I think it's actually a lot higher than that, but I believe that's the number that the National MS Society and the federal government is using, 400,000. I think it's higher than that, because it seems like more and more people are getting diagnosed. And the reason for that is, better testing, and they're actually trying to diagnose people sooner, because they're realizing the sooner that they get on medication, they can slow down the progression of the disease by almost 50% now. So instead of saying, well, we're not sure if it's MS, let's wait a couple more years and see if something else happens. When they think that it is MS, they'll put you on the disease modifying therapy right away. Because the evidence is overwhelming as to how much it can slow down the progression.
Okay. Well, as far as, there's obviously they're getting better at it, and there's a ton of research going on, I assume. And you got a Paul Pelland's mission, the Endless Road Tour, which is I suspect where that what you're raising money for in your cause. Is that a good lead into that?
Sure. What happened was, between quitting the rally stuff and 2002, I did have a motorcycle or two, and I did, start riding a bit more, but I still didn't do any long distance or any major trips or any competitions for sure. But in 2012, I believe, I was having an issue with one of my teenage sons, and I told my wife I was going to go out for a pizza, and she said fine. And I said, well, I'm actually going to go to Daytona for pizza from New Hampshire. So I ended up riding down to Daytona Beach. The Iron Butt Association has a big gathering there every bike week. And I hadn't been for 10 years because I really withdrew myself from everything that had to do with long distance riding. I disappeared from the community completely, partly because of how much I really loved it, but also I really didn't want people to know what was going on with me. But this particular, after a decade, I decided I was going to go, and I went down there, and I talked to everybody, and really enjoyed the camaraderie of the people that thought I was dead or in prison. And on the ride home, I did it one shot, and it's 1,200 miles. And on the halfway through the ride, I'm realizing that maybe I can't compete in long distance events, but I could actually still put the miles in the saddle. I could still ride a 1,000-mile day, no problem. And I started to come up with this idea of how I could use motorcycling and to do something worthwhile with my life and to help other people with MS. And So I came up with a couple different ideas, but it morphed into this endless road tour where I am, going to dedicate and document riding a full 1,000,000 miles, all in the name of MS, while trying to raise awareness and funds, to help others with MS, but also to reach out to others with MS and try to get them to recalculate their road, find that thing that they're passionate about, and for them to find a way to keep doing it. For me, I gave up riding for 10 years, and once I got back to riding, it's helped my health. I mean, it really, I believe that the more I ride, the more I'm keeping my MS at bay.
That's
And
awesome.
I actually have a doctor's prescription to ride my motorcycle up to 12 hours per day as needed.
Hey, wow. Yeah, I like that.
A ticket to ride. Yeah. I'm trying to get it. I don't know what pharmacy to bring it to get it filled, but.
Will your insurance buy the motorcycle and gas, or?
Yeah. Durable medical equipment. It's not quite working yet, but
Okay.
I'm going to work that angle as much as I can.
Heck yeah.
I truly believe, that, riding is really helping my disease, and just the positive attitude and everything else. So I began. I speak at a lot of MS patient events, and I tell my story of riding and how getting back to riding has really helped me, and I share that story, and I really I get a lot out of what I'm doing and the fundraising, and I started this MS 5,000, which is it's basically the MS walk. But it's you ride your bike, and basically what it is you sign up, you get a T-shirt and decals and stuff, and you document riding as many miles as you can over 50 days from April 1st through May 20th, and you collect pledges from your family and friends, and 100% of the money raised goes right to the National MS Society. I started this last year, and just one guy handing out flyers and posting on Facebook and everything else. We raised $23,000 last year.
Wow, awesome.
So this year I'm hoping to double it. We'll see.
So the inaugural MS 5000 was last year? That was
Yes.
the first one? Oh, okay, we're very cool.
Yep. We're right in the middle of it now. People can still register up until the end of March, and then April 1st they start recording their mileage. It's pretty simple. You basically just upload a copy of your gas receipt. You write in your mileage from the bike, and then you just keep a copy of each gas receipt for the 50 days, and then send in your last, mileage. And you get points for how many miles you ride and how many dollars you raise. And then you can reach different levels of the points, and there'll be trophies and prizes, things for the top riders and the top fundraisers.
Now, how do you get as far as the miles and stuff go? Who actually do you send your receipts to and stuff? Are you guys handling that, or is the National MS Society doing that?
The receipts and everything go up to the ms5000.org website, which is mine.
It pushes back to longhaulpaul.com, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So basically I get all the receipts and the mileage stuff, but the money goes right into the MS Society. Has this thing called do-it-yourself fundraising, and that's where I set up the fundraising. So actually, when people donate, they put their credit card in. It goes right to the MS Society's website, and we just get a record of how much each person's has raised, kind of thing. But
Sure.
all that money goes right to them. Which is nice. Eventually, I'd love to see them take this over as, they have bike MS and walk MS. It'd be nice to see if they could get one that's just for motorcyclists. Because
the power of motorcyclists is big. They might not.
I'll tell you, I mean, people that ride motorcycles have big hearts, and they love charities. They love doing this kind of stuff. And, I was amazed when I came up, this idea is actually because of I set a world record 2 years ago as a fundraiser, and I wanted to set another one, last year, and I was supposed to attempt to ride 50,000 miles in 50 days.
Okay.
And unfortunately, because of financial reasons and a few other issues like losing my job and a couple other things, I wasn't able to do it. And but the idea was that I wanted to raise money, and I knew that if I rode 50 days, after the first week, nobody would be following what I'm doing unless I crashed or died. It just gets boring, you know?
Right.
So I decided to create the MS-5000 to run alongside my attempt to do 50,000 miles. I was going to ask riders to try to ride 5,000 miles. So that's how the MS-5000 was born. It was actually supposed to run concurrent to my world record, which I did not do yet. But it ended up being a great success. So we're there again this year doing the same thing. And I got a little more publicity from some magazines and things, which is really cool. And so we're just trying to raise, as much money as we can. And I still plan on attempting that world record, but I just have to kind of wait for things to fall in place for before I can attempt it. But it's still on the horizon.
That's awesome. We're going to do whatever we can here at Law Abiding Biker podcast here to get at least the word, out there, and hopefully, that you can get some more. I know you have some sponsors, but the more, the merrier, I suppose, to get you to that goal.
Yeah. And as far as for me, I mean, my right now, I've got some pretty good sponsors for my gear. Bridgestone Tires takes care of my tires, which is awesome. Aerostitch Rider Warehouse takes care of a lot of my gear, and Twisted Throttle has really come through with really helping me out with all kinds of stuff for my bike, and they're really awesome guys down there in Exeter, Rhode Island, or over here. I guess for you, that's over here.
Right, yeah. Either way.
They're a great group of guys, and wherever I show up at a rally or something that they're at, they'll feed me and put me up, and really have done wonders to help me out. And some of the pharmaceutical companies have helped also with different events that I've been at, and so it's been good. I speak. I've spoken at a few motorcycle rallies, Americade out here at Lake George, New York, and the AMA Vintage Motorcycle Days. I did 2 or 3 presentations out there, and I'll be going out to Denver for the Iron Butt Association's annual international something or other out in August. And so I do events, motorcycle events. I do a presentation, and I also do talks at MS patient events, all to raise awareness. Is what I'm trying to do. So
that's great. Now the MS-5000 thing, I can obviously I can see that really taking off here. And like you say, if you can get them to do it as we get the word out there and get more people. But I just want to say, I believe there's a $30 registration fee. And then how do people get, how do they get sponsored? Do they do that? You'd somebody sponsor you so much for each mile or something like that?
You can kind of do it any way you want. The way that in the MS Society, I've sat down with them a couple of times, and that's the way it used to be years ago. The bookathons and rockathons and all these things. It was 10 cents a book, and apparently that they had so much trouble collecting the money afterwards. Like something like 40% was all they collected out of all the people that pledged and things.
Jeez.
So pretty much all the MS walks and all the bike MS and things, people just pledge up front. So somebody says, look, I'm attempting to ride this many miles, can you donate $10 or $20 or $50 or towards what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
So, but I do have a couple of riders who are collecting the other way, which is fine. And I do, once you sign up, you'll actually get access to a web page that has all kinds of help for raising funds and how to ask for money and that kind of thing. But pretty much what you do is once you sign up, you actually get your own page on the MS website, the MS Society's website, and then you have a link to that page. And so you email your friends and family and say, here's my link, donate to this link. and it'll just bring them right to the rider's page, and they can donate whatever they want there. Or if people don't know a rider, you can donate to the whole MS 5000 event. You can just go to the main page on the the National MS website, and all these links are pretty clear on my website. You can get to those links, but
Sure.
you can donate to the whole event, as a whole. Also, you don't have to pick a rider if you don't want to donate to. But anybody can donate to any one of the riders that are listed, and anybody can sign up for the event.
That's great. Now I'm going to have, for our listeners, I'm going to have a ton of show notes here with a ton of these links, and I'll push them back to your website here and stuff too, so that they can get all the information. All right, so we kind of covered the Now, how many people did you have last year because we really want to get this word out there and ramp it up, but how many people, do you remember how many people you had last year for the first year of that?
Yeah, last year we had 45 riders, and collectively they rode over 200,000 miles. And we raised, like I said, $23,000 last year.
That's right. You did say that. That's awesome for 45 riders. That's amazing. If we can get more, double that would be awesome. All right. And now I was looking on your website, of course, and I'm going to tell you guys it's longhaulpaul.com, or you can go to the ms5000.com. Either way, it'll get you there, and you can learn all about this. I was looking, what kind of bike are you riding right now? Because I was looking at some pictures, and you got there's hoses and all kinds of craziness going on there, man. Tell me about this thing.
I've got a super tricked out, I'm on a Yamaha Super Tenere. I tend to change bikes. Lately it's almost once a year, but this is actually my first new bike I've bought in many years. I think I've owned 35 or 36 motorcycles, but this, I started this, the Million Mile Journey I was actually on a Moto Guzzi, Norge, which was kind of a neat bike, but I was a little worried about finding dealers in all parts of the country as I'm traveling. So I knew I wanted to get something a little more reliable, and I thought that I'd be able to find a manufacturer to sponsor me right away. But of course, they must get 10,000 requests a day for people thinking they got the next greatest thing that they want to be sponsored for. So I ended up looking for pretty much wanted to find a bike that wouldn't need factory sponsorship.
Right, yeah.
Thinking about the Ural,
Yeah.
So I was kind of torn between a Yamaha FJR. I love BMWs. I've owned quite a few BMWs, but for the amount of miles I'm going to be putting on every year, I'd really be, it was not really cost effective. So I took the Yamaha Super Tenere, which is a big dual sport, adventure touring bike. And, if riding 1 million miles for MS isn't an adventure, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So, I got the bike, and, it's got a 33-inch seat height, and I've got a 28-inch leg. And, but I don't care. I love the bike. It's really comfortable. I've got a custom seat from Bill Mayer Saddles on there. He made me a seat. I've got bar risers. I've changed the windshield is all adjustable. I've got heated grips on it. I've got all kinds of electronics, and I've got a 6.25 gallon fuel tank on the back seat. So I've got 12.5 gallons on board.
Okay.
Which lets me go about 500 miles without stopping.
Is that your custom job you did there?
No, that was actually donated by a gentleman up in your corner of the world.
Okay.
EAZ Cycle donated that fuel cell to me, and it's really neat because in about 5 minutes I can pop it off the bike and put the passenger seat on if I needed to.
Oh yeah, cool.
So that's nice. And I've got luggage. I've got the hard luggage, the big ammo can style luggage from SW Motec, from Twisted Throttle, and I've got their electric powered tank bag, so I can power all my electronics as I'm riding in my tank bag. I've got 2 GPSs going plus my phone, and it's all wired into my my helmet with radar detector, MP3 player. Everything's there.
Right, right.
I hardly ever use any of it, but it's all there if I need it. And this winter it's mostly me pressing the button saying, "Hey Siri, how friggin' cold is it right now?"
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
you know the answer, right?
Yeah.
It's 11 degrees.
We're going to have her do that. Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, it's set up for comfort. And in fact, I just got back. Last weekend was Daytona, and I left here Wednesday night. I did a patient event in Leominster, Mass, which is outside of Worcester, and I couldn't leave until 9 o'clock at night. Well, we had snow was already falling up at my house, which is only 45 minutes north, and so I had to go south, and it was pouring rain. It was 36 degrees, pouring sideways rain.
Yeah.
I left, and I got down to about D.C. where all the highway signs are flashing, severe wind warnings, and I'm being blown all across the bridges and everything. And finally, I pulled over and stopped, and then got down to Daytona. Spent the day in Daytona, and I drove home in one shot on Saturday, 1,200 miles in 18 hours. Just
Wow.
a straight shot right home. And having the bike set up so that I'm so comfortable, I can go 300, 400, 500 miles without even thinking about stretching or, my back or my legs. Everything is just, I'm real comfortable on the bike. And that's important for riding those kinds of miles.
Well, yeah. And I'm going to set this up a little bit. So we ride here at, obviously Law Abiding Biker. We got a crew and we ride. Well, we're not even close to your level. Okay. And I don't know if I can to get to that level, but we take 7-day trips and stuff and we ride different states. And how do you straight up, does your ass go to sleep?
No, I mean, the big difference whenever I get a bike, in fact, I bought this Super Tenere I got actually about, I think it was the 24th or the 25th of March. So it's actually a year old today. I bought it, and the first week I had the bike, within the first 150 miles, I actually took the seat off and sent it down to Rocky Mayer to have him custom make a seat to fit my butt.
Okay.
And I actually rode 2,000 miles while the seat was being made. I rode 2,000 miles with a 2x4 with a piece of foam, strapped around the 2x4 as a seat.
Holy cow.
But when the custom seat came in, what a difference. I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's something I do on every bike I get is just have a seat made for comfort and for long distance riding. And I really, it's amazing having the seat and the foot position and the handlebars set up, for the way that you want to. I mean, it's hard to explain, but if I ride, through the night and I've got to stop because my body's falling asleep, I'll pull into a rest area, I'll put the bike on its center stand, and I'll sleep on the bike. I mean, I'm so comfortable that I rest on the bike.
Wow.
Most people would get off and go,
Lay in the
stand
grass.
or walk around. Right. I just put my head down on the tank bag and hopefully somebody doesn't wake me up to come dead,
Right.
which
Yeah.
has happened.
Wow. So is that your number one tip to this crazy long distance riding? Is just that the seat? Is that your number one deal?
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, well, and the whole thing of being is being comfortable. The seat is huge. Having some sort of throttle lock or cruise control makes a huge difference.
Sure. Yeah.
Having the right windshield, and I ride with all the gear all the time. I wear an Aerostitch one-piece riding suit, and if the weather changes, if it starts to pour, or if temperature drops 30 degrees or raises 30 degrees, I don't have to do anything other than open a couple of zippers or close a couple of zippers, and I'm comfortable. And I think having your bike set up, like I can change my socks while I'm riding. I've got everything I need
Jeez.
in my tank bag. I can eat, drink. I've got two different types of drink with me. I've got, water, and I usually have some kind of Gatorade or something in another container. And I've got snacks, and I've got, everything that will, keep me occupied and alert. And it's setting up the bike. Any bike can be set up, but getting it fit to you. The seat is a huge thing. Proper wind protection, and just having the right clothing and that type of thing makes a huge difference also.
Sure. Now, where did you say you send your seat to? He makes them custom for you?
Yeah. Rocky Mayer is from Bill Mayer Saddles, BMS Saddles.
Okay.
He's probably made 6 or 7 seats for me. I've had other seats done by other companies. But it's night and day. I think the stock seat on the Super Tenere, like I said, I think 100 miles is maybe all I rode with it, and after 15 or 20 minutes, my butt was sore.
Right. Okay. Yep.
And it's not made for sitting in. The custom seat, if they're made right, they'll look more like a tractor saddle.
Yeah.
Because, that's what your butt looks like.
Yep.
And so what Rocky does is Rocky will take your measurements, your weight, and he'll take your, your height, and he'll have you take pictures of yourself on the bike, sitting with your legs on the ground, then sitting on the pegs. And he takes these and he'll custom make a seat for you. And you can also ride into his place. He's in Ojai, California, I think.
Okay.
And he'll make the seat right there for you. But
that's awesome. We're riding down there this summer on our trip, so that'd be really cool. What city is he in?
I think it's in Ojai.
Oh, okay.
If you just look up BMS Saddles, you'll check it out. He's been making saddles. His father made saddles before him. His brother makes saddles actually too, another company. And there's a couple others like Russell Day-Long Saddles. They're well known for their long distance saddles. But yeah, I have no issues with blood flow, or I even forget to stretch. I know I'm supposed to stretch my legs here and there. I just forget. I'll go through a whole tank of gas, 2 tanks of gas before I go, hey Paul, you've been riding for 8 hours. Maybe you should stretch your legs out a little bit. And so yeah, it really is. It's amazing. And the Moto Guzzi I had before it, I actually bought a year earlier, and I took it down to Daytona. Was the first trip, and when I get down to Daytona, I threw the seat in the trash, and I went and got a Corbin, which is not usually my first pick, but I said I'm not riding home on that stock seat. Give me something, anything, any seat will be better than that. And it was a huge difference. Actually, I actually enjoyed the Corbin on the Norge. It was a huge improvement. But yeah, that makes a huge difference.
The bike you're currently on, how many miles do you ride a bike like that before you gotta, replace a motor where you're like, I gotta get a new bike? Because I'm not real familiar with that particular bike.
Sure. The Super Tenere's only been here in the States for 2 years now, I guess. But I did a lot of reading about it. And for me, what's important is, maintenance. Because if a bike requires, valve adjustments every 7,000 or 8,000 miles, at times that's once a month or every 2 months for me. And some of these bikes are pretty expensive to have that done if you can't do it yourself. And I don't always have the time or the patience to do, shims and all that stuff.
Right.
So this bike, the Yamaha's, I think the valve adjustments are at 28 or 32. I'm not even sure. Either way, I've passed both of those.
Yeah.
But reading about it online, most guys, unless you're hearing noises and stuff, they'll check them and things, but nobody needs to have them adjusted. So, hopefully the manufacturer's not listening, but I'm probably never going to adjust them. I'm just going to ride it. I'm at like 36,000 this year on it. And, if I have an issue with it or I notice something, but I'm basically changing the oil and changing tires.
Okay.
It's pretty bulletproof, and which is what I like about it. It's parked out all day at work and freezing temperatures and starts right up, and it's got ABS and traction control. It's got some of those things which are nice.
Sure.
And
probably got the integrated brake system.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just a guess how many miles before you'd have to replace an engine? I'm not familiar with those motors.
Yeah, you probably. I mean, I bet you there aren't too many out there because it's only 2 years old.
Right.
But
right.
Going by like the FJR, which is, I mean, it's a totally different motor, but it's built by Yamaha.
One of my buddies just bought one of those 2 days ago, brand new FJR. I rode with them today. It's a pretty nice bike.
I know guys that have FJRs and that have over 300,000 miles on
That's amazing.
Without opening the motors,
Right.
And I think that this bike is going to be, I'll probably replace it after, a couple 100,000 miles just to be safe. Or eventually I'd like to have a couple of bikes because, just getting tires is a problem because, you got to take the wheels off and bring them in. And, so if I had two bikes, then one bike could be getting service while I'm riding the other one.
Right.
I mean, my goal really is to be riding full time. I'm not doing that yet. I'm close to it, but I've started to write for some magazines and doing some speaking events that I do get compensated for. Some of that stuff. Eventually, I'm hoping that I'll be able to squeak by and actually do the riding for a living.
Right. That's awesome.
And when that happens, I'm hoping to ride 80 to 100,000 miles a year.
Okay.
So right now I'm only at about 55,000 into my million since July of 12. So I'm behind. I don't want this to take 30 years.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, your word's definitely getting out there. And how long's your website been up? When did you start all that?
Well, I had Long Haul Paul. I've had for about 12 or 13 years.
Oh, okay.
I never touched it. Actually, I was dating this girl who did my website, built my website for me, and I unfortunately no longer dating her, and I didn't know how to change the website. So
Yeah.
It had the original paperwork, or original pages on there from 2003 or 4. And I didn't know how to change it. So all I did was just kept paying the yearly fee for the name.
Right.
And nobody looked at the website for years. And then I just totally rebuilt it and figured out what I was doing and started the whole blogging and all of that, almost 2 years ago now.
Okay. Yeah. And just so you guys know, the listeners, he does blog on there, and actually he can also follow you. You've got your, I forget what the name of it is, but people can follow you where you're at, right?
Yeah, we've got the spot tracker.
That's what it is. Yeah.
In fact, last weekend when I went down to Daytona, I visited my brother who's a Marine at Quantico in Virginia, and then I visited somebody else in Manassas, Virginia. So somebody called me on my phone as I'm riding and said, "Are you lost? Because you just went all the way around DC."
Oh, jeez.
And then I realized they're watching me on my spot tracker, and I said, "Well, look, somebody told me the fastest way through DC is to go around it." But yeah, you can actually see where I've been. You can actually, if I'm doing a long ride or something, you can actually follow me. It pings every 10 minutes.
Okay.
And shows you where I am. And it's also used for safety. And my wife can see where I am, and if she doesn't hear from me, she can see where the last ping was, and zoom. She can actually zoom in onto Google Maps and see if I'm at a Hooters or if I'm at a gas station or something. She'll know.
Yeah, you haven't learned how to block that yet, huh? Well, now, people, I want to ask you one last question, and we'll kind of wrap it up here now. As far as, there's those who have been down, those who are going down. I've been down. I know pretty much everybody I ride with. How many times, as much as you've ridden, have you been down, man?
I've only been down once.
And that was on the Ural?
That was on the Ural in Oklahoma.
Wow.
And that was, the bike had a mechanical issue.
Right.
but yeah,
That's amazing, man.
I've been hit in the parking lot. In fact, 20-something years ago, when I was 20-something years younger, I rode with a Goldwing Club, and I was the youngest by about 30 years. But we all got, and this is a group ride. It was probably 20 bikes, and the leader brings us to like a one-pump Texaco gas station where we all got to fill up, right? So we're all waiting, along down the side of the building and everything to go in, and this guy in a Bronco is gawking at the bikes and rolls his truck right into me and knocks me over. And I got my CB handle that day. They called me pushover.
Oh, geez.
But, I don't consider that going down.
Well, yeah.
And then I was punted from the rear at a stop sign, but it was, again, I didn't go off the bike, and it was a slow speed kind of thing, and it just pushed in the back of the bike, and but I didn't go down. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really haven't, knock on wood, somewhere over here.
Right.
I think that, because I ride so much, I ride every single day. I've got a 60-mile commute to work. I ride on the weekends. I do. My license plate says no car.
Yeah, I saw that on the website. Yeah.
That's my license plate, and so I tell people I don't own a car. My wife has two, but I don't own a car. But yeah, I ride every single day. I don't go out and look at the weather and stuff. If there's black ice in my driveway, I'm not going to leave my driveway. But other than that, I ride every single day. And I think the more miles and hours I spend on the bike, I think that it actually makes a safer rider.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'd believe that too. Yeah.
And sure, that day may come, whatever. But, I've had a lot of close calls. I've had a lot of, I've had to change underwear quite a few times, but
cages pulling out in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just, it's getting to the point where I feel like I can see a car, and in my head I go, that car's going to do this. And, it could even be 3 minutes later and it'll do it. And it's just, I think just being aware of your surroundings. And, I always ride alone. It's just something that, I find easier to do than riding with a partner or a group. Mm-hmm. And then most of my friends won't ride with me anyway, because
they want to take a break about a couple hours in. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, a good ride is when you ride far enough that the people start to talk funny.
Jeez. Yeah. So, you probably drop a few off. Yeah, along the way. Well, now you've got the platform here. What do you want to get out to the your main goal or your main message here on this deal to the listeners?
I love people to to check out my website, see what I'm doing, what I've done, where I'm going. I'm trying to chronicle my entire life, dealing with the effects of MS, and also riding, and I do a lot of gear reviews and stuff like that, and I write a lot of stories. So check out my website. You can sign up for my blog. You can actually, and what I'll do is, you give me your email, and I'll just email you when I write something new. And basically, You just, I don't, the email is not going to be sent to anybody or sold or anything like that. It's just for me to tell you I've done something new or something's going on with Long Haul Paul. The other thing is, if you want to pitch in and help out, I do have a tribute page on the National MS Society's website for Long Haul Paul, and there's a link to that right on my website. And that's basically just if anybody really wants to help out what I'm doing, I'm asking them to donate to the MS Society in my name. And then the other is the MS 5000. If you want to try to ride as many miles as you can, and you can sign up before the end of March. It's a good time. We've got a Facebook page going where people, once they start riding, people start posting like all the pictures of where they went today, or, geez, I only got in, 600 miles this week, or, there's a lot of back and forth on the Facebook page, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Cool.
And the whole idea is just, to raise money. And if you've done the MS walk or bike MS, it's just like that, except, we're bikers, not hikers, right?
Yep.
So, so it's the same thing. You ask for family and friends to donate. Tell them what you're doing. You're going to try to ride as many miles as you can. If you want to attempt to do the 5,000, that's awesome. But this year we're not requiring people to ride 5,000 to be a finisher. You can ride less and just raise more money.
Sure.
To try to equal 5,000 points is what it's about. But in the end, it really, who cares? If you can't ride the whole 5,000 miles, or you only ride 1,000 miles, but you raise a couple $100, I mean, that's what it's about. So
absolutely.
There's no, well, there's a winner, but it's not, I mean, if somebody wants to brag about winning this rally, then that's wonderful.
Right.
But it's about helping people, and the money all goes towards seeking a cure for MS, which is, it is a autoimmune disease. It attacks the central nervous system. MS basically autoimmune, so your own body is chewing up the insulation that surrounds the nerves in your brain and spinal cord. So it's like having a bad wiring harness, and your own body is chewing through the insulation, causing the messages not to get through. Mm-hmm. Slowing down the voltage, and so basically it can affect any part of your body. And there are some people out there that unfortunately have courses of the disease that are very progressive. They lose their ability to walk, their ability to see. They lose control of their bladder and all kinds of functions, blindness, and so it really is a debilitating disease. It does progress. Medications that they've come out with. There's now 11 different disease-modifying therapies. A year ago, I had to inject myself every single day with a disease-modifying drug, and today I'm actually on a new oral drug.
Wow.
In the past 2 years, they've come out with 3 different oral drugs. So it's a hell of a lot nicer to stick something in my mouth than into my butt or my belly or my arm. So that they're really coming up with better treatments, and hopefully sometime soon, and I believe it'll be in the next 5 or 6 years, I believe they'll actually have a cure for MS. So
that's exciting, man. Yeah.
That's where this money's going to. That's what my whole goal is to get people involved. The motorcycle community is my family. I've realized that. All the people that are supporting me I'm amazed. Check out the blog. I write a regular column for a magazine called Ability, which is out of California, and it's talks about a lot about celebrities that do things with people with disabilities or have family members. And I've started writing for Iron Butt magazine, and I've done quite a few other pieces in different magazines as well. But again, a lot of my stuff is all right on my website, and the more people I get to check out my website, and if you like my style of writing, then tell your friends and have them sign up, and eventually I'll get some good sponsors on my website, and that'll help to pay my way through what I'm trying to do also. So, check out my stuff. Donate to the MS 5000, or join up if you can, or join up next year. I'm sure we'll be doing it again next year, and look for me at a motorcycle rally coming to you.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And just so you know, law-abiding biker community here in the podcast, anytime you need a platform or information out, you got friends here, man, and let us know. And you're a man and a machine. I don't think I could keep up with you, man. I'll tell you that straight. I'm not even going to try because I'll just fail. But we really appreciate you taking the time, man, over there and your evening to be with us. And thanks so much for doing this interview.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and it was great talking to you. And I'm sure that at some point I'll come out and check you and see you.
Hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I know I enjoyed it. I know I learned a lot, and I wish I had a little more time, but of course I don't want the podcast to go too long. So anyways, you guys check out his website, longhaulpaul.com. If you want to get signed up, you can do any of that over at his website. If you want to do that MS5000 or whatever, or if you just want to donate. But let's come together as a law-abiding biker community. Of course, I just wanted to get his word out there, and hopefully the podcast will get the word out there, share it with people. Let's do this thing. So I want to mention one thing. If you guys, it really helps our ratings in iTunes. Even if you don't listen on iTunes, if you just go to iTunes, you can go to lawabidingbiker.com/iTunes and just hit the subscribe button. Even if you're not, like I say, using iTunes to listen to it, just the fact that you subscribed helps our ratings in iTunes and puts us up there at the top. And if we're at the top, that helps us a lot because more people find us when they type in certain search criteria. So anyways, that's it, guys. That's the show. And thanks for the donations. I thanked you up front. lawabidingbiker.com/donate if you like the content, you want to keep it coming your way. Thanks, guys, for checking back in. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming for you. Man, I've got some episodes lined out. You're really going to like them. And in fact, tomorrow night, Oscar and Chewy are coming over. We're going to at least pump out one, if not two. I've got one in the bucket. So, man, we got tons of content coming at you guys. Don't forget, I did copious show notes, lawabidingbiker.com/ and whatever episode number this is. If it's 20, it's 20. If it's 26, it's 26, whatever. We're way past that. But anyways, that's how you get the show notes. I'll put all the links we talked about. Law Abiding Biker podcast hotline, 509-731-3548. Leave a voicemail. We'll answer your question, play it on the podcast, possibly. Also, you can leave an internet voicemail right from your computer microphone, lawabidingbiker.com/voicemail, or a voice message. Email or contact us at lawabidingbiker.com/contact. And don't forget to get into that email club, guys. Completely free. lawabidingbiker.com/email club. You get everything first there, plus coupon codes, and you get videos several weeks before everybody else, including all the free content. So again, rate us on iTunes, hit that subscribe button, and leave us a rating, and we really appreciate it, guys. Hey, get out there and freaking ride, man. Let's do it.